Hello, my beautiful buds. Welcome back to my channel, Sprouts with Joy. My name is Joy, and if you like to talk about plants, you're in the right place. Today we're going to do a task that I've been procrastinating for a while, but I'm actually really excited for it. I'm going to be potting up a few propagations of mine, and I'm specifically going to put them on poles. I'm going to put 2 of them on moss poles and 1 of them on like a wooden pole. The other thing is that I'm actually going to be making my own moss poles today. So I already made 1, and you're probably thinking, Joy, what in the ever-living heck is that? I know it doesn't look very attractive. It's kind of funny, but okay. Here's the deal. Here's the story. So I bought supplies intending to make D-shaped poles by following Good Growing's tutorial that she put up. So I bought like these plastic sheets. And I was really excited to make a D-shaped moss pole because I like the fact that it would have the clear back where you could see roots growing in and the moss would stay moist for longer. However, I also find lazy poles appealing, like the kind that Unplanned Parenthood makes, and she's put out tutorials on them and stuff. But as I was watching that tutorial, even that felt a little bit more complicated than what I was looking for. The thing that I like the most about the lazy pole is that, first of all, you add moss as the plant grows, and also the plant is growing a lot more into the moss. Like you kind of like pot up the plant so that's more inside the pole, kind of, if that makes sense. And also the components of the pole are very easily removable and reusable, so you don't have to cut up and destroy a pole in order to get the plant out of the pole and propagate it and that sort of thing. So I really like that element of it because I recently experienced with my philodendron pothos, when I was chopping it up, I had to basically completely destroy the pole that it was on because of the way that that pole was designed. So I decided, okay, well, maybe I'll make a lazy moss pole, but I kind of went my own way. I'll show you the process of how I made it. It is far from perfect. It's not very attractive, but I think that it's functional. I don't know. I'm gonna try potting up with this and we'll see whether or not I think it's actually functional, but I'm gonna try it. We're kind of taking risks today. But first, I do want to show you the plants that I'm gonna be potting up. So I've got 2 painted ladies here that I want to put up a moss pole. I don't know for sure yet if I'm gonna pot them up together or if I'm going to just do one of them and then, you know, give the other one away or something. I don't know. We'll figure that out. The next plant that I'm wanting to pot up is my philodendron gigas. I think that it's ready. This actually technically wasn't a propagation, but I got this from Plant Haven Toronto a few months ago, and it was a very baby plant. It has since put out several leaves, but it's still kind of, it's been in a mixture of moss and perlite for a while now. And I think that I want to put it on a pole sooner rather than later so that it can start sizing up. Might be a little bit too small to really fit on a pole at this point, but we're gonna try it and hope for the best. Then the last plant, these are cuttings of my manjula pothos. I really love this plant, but my gosh, it is a very slow grower for me. It hasn't even started trailing yet, like my original manjula pothos, and I've had it for, almost 2 years at this point. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put this on a plank and see if that helps it to grow faster. I honestly love the way that these leaves look when they size up, and I found the epipremnum respond really well to climbing. I want to preface this with saying these are not perfect. I am not even gonna really take measurements. Okay, so supplies wise, I'll probably just link this down below. I mean, you can't even really see it. It's like a plastic sheet that I got off of Amazon. This one honestly might even be too thick. They come in packs like this, and I cut mine in half. Yeah, obviously you'll need scissors to cut it in half or some sort of cutting tool. I also have this hole punch. For future, I'm gonna get a more heavy duty hole punch because I really struggled with this. Like there's kind of a trick to it, but a more heavy duty single hole punch would work much better. I also just have 3 zip ties. These ones are black because they're what I have, but if you can find clear zip ties or white zip ties or whatever color you want, I mean, if you want to do rainbow zip ties, do that. This is just for the future. I think as the plant grows up the pole, I'll use plant Velcro to continue securing it. And of course, our lovely friend moss. All right, I'm gonna start off just by showing you how I made this thing. Really, it's as basic as I do 3 holes on each side that are parallel to each other. I try to line them up as much as possible. If you want them to be perfect, you can absolutely use a ruler, you can use a marker to mark where you're gonna be making your holes, anything like that. But honestly, today I'm just gonna eyeball it because I don't really have the time to be perfect. So if I'm being completely honest, I would normally consider myself a perfectionist, but in this stage of life as a young mom, I just don't really have the luxury of being a perfectionist. And if I waited to do something until I could do it absolutely perfectly, I would never do anything. So I've just had to accept it and accept that it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's functional. So with that little monologue out of the way, I am just going to start, and I'm just kind of roughly eyeballing it. And what I found, so if you have a very basic 1-hole punch like I do, you know, doing just downward force, unless you have a really strong grip strength, is not going to work very well. So I found, honestly, like wiggling it back and forth and like really going like that works. I would much rather invest in a more heavy duty one for like $10 more, because this was like $5, but I think you can get them for like $15. But if you already have one, I mean, I don't think you need to buy another one. Like, you can make it work. It's just going to be a little bit more elbow grease. So yeah, so from here, I just kind of visually line it up. Again, you can absolutely use a ruler, but I just kind of eyeball it. It's kind of stuck. There we go. Here, this is your permission. If you don't want to do anything like this because you don't consider yourself crafty and you want things to be perfect, or like you feel pressure for it to look perfect, this is your permission to just do it. Just take a deep breath, enjoy it, have fun. If enjoying it means you're breaking out your rulers, do that. But for me, right now, that would just stress me out more. Like, this isn't even cut straight. Like, it's not a perfectly straight line. But when it's curved, I don't think I'm going to notice, honestly. There we go. All right, and then this is going to be the top. But I'm going to try to have some foresight here. And I'm going to leave some more extra space, like an extra inch or so compared to the bottom. I'm going to leave like an extra 1.5 inches at the top, so that in the future, I'm thinking if I want to extend this pole. Now, I don't know for sure if it would actually be stable enough for this or if this would work, but theoretically, I could make another one of these and have holes in the bottom and then bring it down, remove the zip tie, and then line up the holes and then put a zip tie through those holes. Does that make any sense at all? But the idea is I want to leave extra space so that it's easier to extend the moss pole in the future if I decide to do that. Okay, well, that's the first step. And then the second step, honestly, guys, this is so easy. Like, I'm not cutting a bunch of extra pieces. I'm not making a bunch of extra holes. I'm literally now taking the zip tie and going for it. So I just zip it, and I'll cut this later, but I'm just going to keep on going down the line and zipping them. The nice part is that, unlike the other moss poles I used to make, I'm not making like 1,000 zip ties. The nice part about this too is that it's very easily adjustable, as you can see. So you could absolutely have it be more wide, like this length. But because I'm going to be using smaller pots today, I think I need it to be not quite as wide. And in the future, I can always cut away these zip ties and put in new zip ties and adjust the width that way if it was really bothering me. But is this going to work, guys? I don't know. I don't know. We will find out. So I'm just going to kind of go through and adjust them accordingly. This one I definitely did too far right away, but it's fine. I think this is going to work. And And it really is just as simple and easy as that. So let's try potting up with it. I have no idea how well it's gonna work, practically speaking, but theoretically, as I'm looking at it, I feel like it's gonna work pretty well. I think that I wanna start off with the painted lady. I am really happy with how these propagations have been growing. This was the base of the plant, so I'm honestly probably, regardless, going to chop this leaf off because it's on its way out. It's been around for over a year now, and yeah, it's a little bit unsightly. I'm curious to see like what kind of root system this one has. It's in soil. This one is in a mixture of moss and perlite. Obviously the leaves on this one are a little bit bigger. I'm having to make decisions. Let's just start off by seeing what kind of root system we have in here. Okay, pretty good. I mean, I see a lot of like new roots that have developed because this base of the plant actually had a bit of root rot going on. But we have some nice new roots, new growth, new leaves, which is wonderful. I'm seeing aerial roots growing in this direction. So I would probably pot it up against the moss pole, like having the pole like right here. I think I'm gonna use this pot and eventually I'll try to find a cover pot for it. The thought is that you pretty much like pot up the plant like within the moss pole. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants right now, if I'm being honest. I mean, I don't know. If I wanted to do 2 of them, I would definitely need a bigger pot. And honestly, maybe even like a bigger moss pole. I'm just gonna go with 1 painted lady for now and see how she does. If this utterly fails, I at least have a backup plan, I guess, is a good way to look at it. Right here, I'm like keeping the pole in here as I fill it up because I want the base of the pole to like pretty much be soil, because like this pole is taking up the majority of the pot. And then I'm just gonna kind of nestle the roots like inside the pole already. I'm gonna hope for the best. I have no idea how this is gonna go, but I don't know how well you can see that. I've kind of placed the roots into the pot, into the pole. I'm just gonna fill it up with soil. And this way it's kind of all just a single unit. And to kind of stabilize the pole, I'm adding soil to the back. I'm very interested to see how this goes. Theoretically, I could like tuck this leaf in behind this. I guess that's one flaw in the design of this pole. If I were to do it differently, I would maybe only zip tie this top portion and then try to secure this with plant Velcro maybe. I don't know how well that would work, but the next time I make this, maybe I would try that instead and see if that's a little bit better. Let's fill this up with moss. You guys, I literally have no idea what's gonna happen with this, but we'll see. You know what, guys? I think I actually do want to put this leaf in here. I'm so lucky that didn't just snap, and I'm realizing this soil is completely blocking it. I did go ahead and feed the petiole inside, so I'm interested to see how that does. And this is gonna look so awkward to start, but I really think this might actually work, guys. Okay, I'm gonna add more soil to help stabilize it. Okay, and I'm gonna also secure what I have so far, and I am well aware this kind of looks ugly. But as the plant gets bigger, I think that will matter less and less. Hopefully this doesn't stress it out too much to have the zip tie like right up against it. I mean, that might be a problem. But we're just gonna see what happens. Okay, I think I'll add a little bit more moss and then leave it at that, and I'll add more moss as the plant grows. I think it would work much better with like a clear zip tie, or maybe even not a zip tie, but zip ties are just what I happen to have on hand that would function for this purpose. I know Charmaine, like Unplanned Parenthood, like cuts up pieces of the plastic and like cuts up the plant Velcro and all that, but that's like too many steps for me right now. So I'm gonna try this and see how well it works. I know it probably looks stupid right now, but just imagine it going up the pole more. But once I'm gonna water this in. Thankfully it does kind of stand on its own. It's a little bit top heavy, which is to be expected, but I'll put this in a cover pot if I can find one that fits it. Also, as a side note, I'm not really prescribing that you do this. I'm just trying this out, and if you guys like this method, you can try it out too. But we would both, I don't know like if it works, so we would both just be experimenting together. All right, next up is gonna be my philodendron gigas. And I'm really actually nervous about this one, but we're gonna try. I think with this one, I'm going to experiment with removing this middle zip tie. And I think something that Charmaine does is that she, like, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while since I watched her video, she like cuts this plant Velcro in half and feeds it through holes like this. I don't know, maybe that would be better, but I'm gonna experiment with removing the zip tie on this one for now. Might actually be too much soil. But really, like, the pole is practically the entire pot, to be honest. So, like, the roots are really going to be growing into the pole primarily and not into the soil with the way that this is. I think, obviously, if this pole were associated with a bigger pot, that would be different. But since the root systems of these guys are so tiny, this is what I'm doing. I think another positive element to this is that since we're putting the roots like directly into the pole itself, I think that that's kind of gonna mitigate some of the issues I've had with moss poles in the past, where I had this big old moss pole and I had to get a bigger pot to accommodate it, but the plants didn't like that there was just so much soil and so much, it was overwhelming. But I was trying to get the plant onto a pole while the plant was still young so that it could size up, but ultimately it just was too much. So I think that this will hopefully solve that problem. I'm trying to be as gentle as possible. I'm really kind of just coaxing it off of the roots. So yeah, see, this is like, it's a good root system for the size of the plant, but it's so tiny and these roots are really delicate. Okay, I do like this better, like potting it up with this portion open, just because I don't have to work around it as much. So I don't know, that might be a tip for y'all. I will add a little bit more soil over these roots. So here's what I've got going on so far. Just giving you a little bit of an update. Now I'm gonna start adding in some moss. I'm curious to see how well plant Velcro would be able to hold it together, because this plastic is quite thick, so I don't really know for sure if it'll work, but I'm just gonna try Charmaine's idea. I know I said that it was too many steps, but I might wind up going back on that a little bit in the moment here. Because right now I'm kind of problem solving. You're watching me like really in the moment here. Obviously this plant isn't quite tall enough yet, so the benefit of this is that I can always like open it up to receive the plant while still helping the pole like maintain its shape. Okay, wow, that's kind of surprising. I was not expecting the plant Velcro to be able to be strong enough to hold this together, but I don't know, it's doing pretty well. I'm aware that this looks so awkward, but again, we are working with what we've got. I'm just gonna keep on filling this with moss until it kind of goes slightly above where the plant is at. I'm feeling fairly optimistic, and I'll probably change my method as I go if I choose to do this with more plants. But I have the supplies, so like if it works well, I mean, why not? Part of the idea to this too is that like I want the plant to have as much contact with the moss as possible to increase the chances of it like actually rooting into the pot. So now we've got this, and I'm gonna secure the plant a little bit more with another piece of plant Velcro. All right, that's kind of fun. I'm gonna add a bit more soil around the edges again to just kind of hold the pole in place. That was a fail. So here's that. I'm gonna water this one in. And for this one, I do already have a cover pot in mind right here. So that will help to keep it stable. I'm a big advocate for doing whatever works for you when it comes to plants, or honestly, kind of anything. If it's working for you, like, it's all very subjective. There are obviously some very objective things in the world, but plant care, I feel like a lot of things are fairly subjective and according to like your environment, because that changes a lot of things. So it's like, whatever you feel like doing. There are a lot of things that can work. Okay, so as I mentioned, I wanted to put my manjula pothos up a pole. This is a really large pole, and so I need a larger pot to accommodate it. So I have this really long pot, but it's kind of ugly, and it's also not, it's gonna be super top heavy. So this is kind of ridiculous, but what I was thinking is that I would put this inside this terracotta pot just to stabilize it for now. And as the plant grows, I will probably eventually like pot the entire unit into this terracotta. So I don't know, that's my current thought process. And yeah, here's my manjula pothos. It's pretty nicely rooted. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did before. And kind of empty it into this catch-all, whatever. I'm gonna boil this, reuse it, whatever. It's just a mixture of moss and perlite. This is newer moss that I use for like things that are strictly moss, you know, but this is just kind of a catch-all. I've reused it. It's kind of old, but here's the roots, and it sounds like my son is awake, so I'll be right back. And we're back. Although my son is just kind of playing on his little play mat in the living room. So if you hear like jingling in the background or baby babbling, that's just him. So that's fine. We're going to go back to what we were doing. This root system is pretty good, but I definitely don't want to fill this up all the way because I think that would be too overwhelming for this. It looks like it's growing this way, so I'll pot it up this direction, and same with this one. So there's just two little vines there. I'm really curious to see how this plant fares. Again, this one's kind of lower risk because I've got like a whole nother manjula plant hanging behind me. So, you know, that one's alive and well. And so if this doesn't work, I can always try again. Okay. So these are going to be starting off pretty low down the pole and the pot. That's what that looks like so far. And it does not really stand up on its own, but it's secure. So what I'm gonna do now, all right, let's see that. Yes, okay, good, that works. I just have to be careful with it, but it does pretty much stand up on its own. All right, and now the next step is to just secure it to the pole. All right, so I kind of gently secured it to the pole, and that's what we're working with right now. Well, these are the fruits of our labor today. Don't mind my son, he is babbling a lot right now. He's finding his little toys very entertaining. Oh, that sounds a little bit more sad. Okay, I'll try to wrap this up pretty quickly. All right, so yeah, I would say, oh my word. I will have to keep you guys posted on like how these moss poles fare and how I like them. So far, I definitely prefer them. One second. So far, I definitely prefer them to like any moss pole that I've made in the past that's like DIY. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how they perform. And then this guy, of course, I just need to make sure it doesn't topple over. But I think it'll be so fun if this manjula pothos takes off up this pole. So yeah, I'll have to keep you guys updated on that. But obviously this guy is getting a little bit hungry, so I gotta head out. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to leave a like or comment, subscribe. All those things are super helpful for my channel. And let me know if you think this is gonna be an absolute failure or if it's gonna work or whatever. I hope that you guys have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye-bye!